Psychology is the study of behavior and mental processes.
How we perceive the world and how the world perceives us is all thanks to psychology. Our brain's neurons are rapidly firing signals throughout the body in response to various stimuli that we are constantly surrounded by. Whether you are really hungry, high-fiving a friend, or going to sleep, psychology influences everything we do. However, there are many concepts and facts that influence psychology as well. And today we will be focusing on one unlikely subject in particular.
Memes.
Beat down a science clown. Beat down a science clown.
So what is a meme? Where did they even come from? Well, in order to get to the bottom of this, I sent out our meme correspondent Ed Lucano to find out the word on the street.
Word on the street. What is a meme? What is a meme? What is a meme?
I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to answer that.
Answer as best as you can.
A meme is like a little picture with a like relatable quote that like when you look at it's supposed to be like funny and like relatable.
Memes way of life.
A meme is a really dang picture of
A meme is a subunit of culture. It's like a gene.
it's when you take a photo and you add words to make yourself sound funny but they're really not.
Something that makes you laugh and is funny and stink.
It's what brings meaning into my life, which otherwise has no meaning.
So Ed, what's the verdict?
Alright, well, nobody really seemed to know what they were talking about, so I decided to do some outside research on my own.
From a psychological standpoint, memes are self-replicating designs or concepts passed down from one person to the next. Derived from the French word meme, which means the same, memes offer an outlet for people to relate to each other through mutual ideas and opinions about a broad range of topics. However, the rise of the internet in the 21st century has given a new meaning to the definition of a meme. Memes have transcended the field of academics and have evolved into cultural symbols of witty satire. Essentially, a modern-day meme may consist of a humorous photograph accompanied by a funny caption that satirizes certain aspects of pop culture. From politics to Hollywood, no one is safe from being memed, and today we are here to answer the following question. How do memes relate to psychology?
Our first field of study will be neuroscience. Neuroscience is the brain's system for communicating with itself and the rest of the body. Neuroscience allows us to move, think, and feel emotions. Different neurotransmitters, or chemical messengers, have different functions, from controlling our level of arousal, stimulating or repressing our muscles, controlling our moods, and even relieving pain. But you're probably wondering, what on earth does this have to do with memes? Well, the way people react to memes can be traced back to the finite details of the brain's chemistry, and here is Ed to explain further.
A neuron, or a nerve cell, is a basic building block of the nervous system, which is the body's speedy electrochemical communication system. This cell is divided into two main parts, the dendrite and the axon. The dendrite is the bushy, branching extensions of the neuron that receive messages and conduct impulses towards the cell body. However, the axon is the extension of the neuron, which ends in the branching terminal fibers, through which messages pass to other neurons or to various muscles or glands. Essentially, the axon of a neuron sends electrochemical messages to other neurons, and those are received in the dendrites, and this creates a domino effect through the millions of neurons in the brain and throughout the body. Alright, so let's relate this back to memes and laughter. So, for example, let's say Ben sees a meme on Instagram, and he thinks it's funny, so he laughs a little bit to himself. Now, the neurons in Ben's brain are releasing dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter related to pleasure in the brain. Now, a neurotransmitter is a chemical messenger that passes signals along from one neuron to the other. These neurotransmitters travel across the synaptic gap, which is the space between the axon of one neuron and the dendrite of another. Once the dopamine travels across the synapse, it meets up with its dopamine receptor, which in turn absorbs this neurotransmitter into the next neuron. And any leftover dopamine is recycled by the transporter and reused again in a process called reuptake. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, here's Ben to talk about how emotions relate to memes.
My friend Eddie here is annoyed by this Harambe meme because Harambe is a dead meme that has become very unfunny very fast. Emotion is defined as a response of the whole organism involving 1. Physical arousal, 2. Expressive behaviors, and 3. conscious experience. But different emotion theories have different ideas about how this works. We're going to talk about the James Lange theory, the Cannon-Bard theory, and the two-factor theory. The James Lange theory is the theory that our experience of emotion is our awareness of our physiological responses to emotion-arousing stimuli. So, Ed encountered the annoying Harambe meme, and his body responded to that. And once he became aware of his body responding, he then experienced the emotion of annoyance. The Cannon-Bard theory of emotion states that an emotion-arousing stimulus simultaneously triggers 1. a physiological response, and 2. the subjective experience of emotion. So, for Ed, this means that the annoying Harambe meme caused him to feel annoyed and to physically respond to the meme simultaneously. This is different from the James Lange theory because James Lange theory says that these two things happen one after the other. The Schachter two-factor theory of emotion states that to experience emotion, one must 1. be physically aroused, and 2. cognitively label that arousal. So that means for Ed, once he encountered the annoying Harambe meme, his body became physically aroused, and only once he became aware of that arousal and cognitively label it could he experience the emotion of annoyance. I do wheelies to forget my feelies.
Different memes make us feel different things, whether it's happy, sad, confused. A lot of them make us feel confused. It's all the way we interpret them. Interpretation is key to what makes memes memes, or what makes anything really. The way we perceive different stimuli gives us different sensations.
Two key components to sensation and perception are vision and hearing, and eyes and ears are the name of the game.
Alright, so everybody, well, most people know SpongeGar. It's just SpongeBob, but like a caveman, so yeah, that's pretty sick. But that's not the point here. The point here is vision, and the way we see SpongeGar is all about the eyes.
So, when you see an image such as SpongeGar or this lame candle that they put in this picture, the light from the image first enters your eye through the pupil, which is just an opening, and the pupil surrounded by the iris, which opens or closes the pupil to let more light in, depending on light availability. Then it goes through the lens of the eye, which focuses the object so that you'll be able to see it more clearly.
And all of that is covered by the cornea, which is just a tissue over the front of the eye.
The image is projected onto the fovea, which is the central focus point of the retina, around which the eye's cones cluster. The retina is the light-sensitive inner surface of the eye, containing receptor rods and cones, plus layers of neurons that begin the processing of neural information. So the blind spot is the point at the back of the eye where the optic nerve exits from the retina, and the optic nerve takes neural information, which is actually the coded visual image, to the occipital lobe in the brain.
In psychology, there are two main theories that justify why we see SpongeGar as yellow and brown. And those are the opponent process theory and the trichromatic color theory. The opponent process theory states that opposing retinal processes, such as a red-green mechanism and a blue-yellow mechanism, enable color vision. So essentially, opposite colors produce color vision as a whole. In contrast, the Young-Helmholtz trichromatic theory states that the retina contains 3 different color receptors, one most sensitive to red, another one to green, and another to blue. And it's that these main 3 receptors enable color vision.
So Eddie, if according to the Young-Helmholtz trichromatic theory, we only have receptors in our eyes for red, green, and blue, then how do we perceive SpongeGar as yellow?
Well, Benjamin, that's an excellent point. Well, obviously there's more colors than those 3, so it's the range between these 3 colors that creates everything else. Alright, so now that we're on to hearing, I just wanted to remind everybody how much I hate this video. Like, oh sick, you can wear a pair of white Vans and get famous and have an annoying voice. Like, okay, good for you. Okay, I gotta get back on track. So anyway, outer ear. That's what we see on the outside, that's what we see on the side of our heads, and that funnels sound energy into the middle ear, which is the chamber between the eardrum and the cochlea, which contains 3 tiny bones, the anvil, the hammer, and the stirrup, that concentrate the vibrations of the eardrum on the cochlea's oval window. And in turn, the cochlea is the coiled, bony, fluid-filled tube in the inner ear through which sound waves trigger nerve impulses. And once this goes through the inner ear, it travels to the temporal lobe of the brain to be processed.
The impression that a meme makes on us is all due to memory. Some memes come and go and are forgotten and become dead memes, but the best of them last forever, like Damn Daniel. So now we're going to talk about how memory can influence our experience of memes.
Alright, so Dat Boy was a pretty fun meme, just like a frog chilling on a unicycle. I don't really know its purpose, but I don't question it because it reigns supreme. But anyway, if I'm trying to remember Dat Boy, I will use my memory, which is defined as the persistence of learning over time through the storage and retrieval of information. Storage is the retention of encoded information over time, whereas retrieval is the process of getting information out of memory storage. Alright, so these 2 concepts are used to remember certain things, and things like this can either be part of the short-term or long-term memory. So short-term memory is activated memory that holds a few items briefly before the information is stored or forgotten, whereas long-term memory is the relatively permanent and limitless storehouse of the memory system, which includes knowledge, skills, and experiences. So essentially, Dat Boy is in my long-term memory because I've remembered it since it popped up last year, and not in my short-term memory, which is exactly the situation I want it to be. But there's some memes that I definitely want to forget, and I'm sure others do too, and those are dead memes.
So here's a meme that had one of the most sudden deaths of any meme in the last decade. Pokemon Go.
Literally, last July, Pokemon Go was crazy popular, but then a month later, everybody forgot about it. So how do people forget things so quickly? Okay, first off, encoding is the processing of information into the memory system by extracting meaning, for instance.
And retrieval failure is when memory was encoded and stored, but sometimes you just can't access it.
And then there's storage decay, which is when memory fades over time in spite of the conscious repetition of said information. So in all, people forgot about Pokemon Go primarily due to storage decay and retrieval failure. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the video. We hope that we were able to convey our message that memes actually relate to psychology and that they're not just funny pictures of videos, they actually have meaning in society.
Yes, they do, Ed. I agree. Memes are very important to our contemporary society, and I hope you all enjoyed this educational journey through the wonderful world of memes. Thank you for watching B-Town and Science Class.